the idea of throwing bricks at police, who yesterday were risking their lives trying to save people, and first responders. It's bizarre. It's certainly I've never seen anything from anyone in Southport who would do anything like that, So it's on the back of yesterday's distress, which we're still reeling from. Of course, we all are. It's kind of the opposite. It doesn't help in any shape or form. It doesn't make any sense either.
It is almost customary now, isn't it, with events like this, that the aftermath is flooded with rumour, speculation and misinformation. It is that, really, that's led us perhaps to where we are. Lizzie Dearden is a Home Affairs and security journalist and has been correcting the record on some of this out of Southport in the last couple of days. Lizzie, good evening. I guess just your reaction to where we find ourselves tonight and these protests in Southport.
Hi, thanks for having me on. Obviously, this is horrific, and I'm sure that the people of Southport, don't need this in a time when they're obviously grieving and when, sadly, so many victims of the attack are still in a critical condition in hospital. But this kind of has become a pattern that we've seen repeated time and again, where you have acts of violence or mass violence. And because of what are actually quite routine legal restrictions around both what the police can say and what journalists can report after those events, there's always a kind of vacuum of information that people sweep into, whether it's deliberate or not, making up things, sharing things that are accidentally or deliberately false. And this is not the first time we've seen kind of tensions of this type explode.
And the involvement of counter-terror police is an interesting element of this story, Lizzie, that has been somewhat mischaracterised. Can you explain how?
Yeah, so just to explain the process, not in relation to this case in particular, counter-terrorism police have obviously a lot of specialist capabilities, and they're very used to investigating mass murders and effects of mass violence. And what they do is, where there are events like this, where there has been serious violence and the motive isn't immediately obvious, they often offer their support to local forces like Merseyside in the investigation. And what happens is, and this is routine in any kind of case like this, the local police run what's to all intents and purposes a normal murder investigation. And then counter-terrorism police do the kind of specialist work, looking at motivation, getting all of the evidence together and assessing whether whatever happened was an act of terrorism or whether the motivations were something else. And that's happened in many, many cases, some of which weren't terror attacks at all. For instance, I'm sure listeners will remember the awful stabbings in Nottingham last year. In Glasgow, there was a mass stabbing at an asylum hotel, and other incidents where at the end of the day, they weren't terrorism, but terrorism police used their specialism to help local police make that determination.
Okay, who have the main protagonists or antagonists, as may be the case, Lizzie, for the misinformation, the rumour, the speculation that we have seen around this story?
There was a key kind of claim, which I think your previous interviewee mentioned, around the attacker supposedly being a migrant who arrived on a small boat and being given a particular name that, signified that he was a Muslim. I don't know, and I don't know if anyone else actually knows at this stage where that claim originated. It was false. The suspect, who's currently under arrest, was born in Cardiff. As to their religion and ethnicity, there's nothing I can actually confirm on that. But whatever the origin of that claim was, it spread like absolute wildfire among far-right activists, extremist groups, people even like Andrew Tate, the misogynist kind of leader, a whole host of different groups and individuals on social media who either oppose kind of non-white people coming to the UK, who spread conspiracy theorists about Muslims or migrants, and also people who kind of center on conspiracy theories and ideas of there being some kind of government cover-up.
Okay. Insightful, Lizzie. Thank you for your time as ever. Lizzie Dearden, who is a Home Affairs and security journalist, on some of the threads, perhaps, that led us to the violence that we are keeping an eye on in Southport tonight. Of course, yesterday's horrendous attack, followed by grief and shock. A peaceful vigil earlier, the laying of flowers from the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary, and tonight, violent scenes with a mosque attacked, police and emergency services also attacked, and a police riot van, it seems, burnt out. Let's speak to Father John Heneghan, who is a parish priest at St Marie's Church in Southport. John, thank you for being with us. This is your community. React on their behalf. How does it feel to see the scenes we've seen tonight?
Appalling. It's just appalling to see it. The reaction to yesterday's horror was an outpouring of love from the people of Southport, but also from people from far and wide in this country and around the world. And that has been a massive help to us all, and particularly to the families, I'm sure. But to see this tonight, I just came out of the church, and we'd had the church open so that people could come and be still if they wanted to throughout the day. And quite a few people did. And as I came out of the church, I just saw this pall of black smoke, and I thought, what on earth is that? And to think it's just the opposite of what the people of Southport have been doing. So where these people are from and what they're doing, I have absolutely no idea. And how they think that's helping the people who are in trauma from yesterday. I don't know where they're coming from at all.
We've seen a mosque attacked tonight. And you, of course, are a man of the church.
Yes.
How do you square up what clearly is a community tension there?
I can't recognise the community tension. The people from the mosque, our sisters and brothers from the mosque, as far as I know, are good people. I've never heard of any trouble at all from the very respectful, and they're great members of the community. Many of them do all kinds of wonderful things in our community on the medical side and care side, and in so many different ways as well. So I haven't heard anything or sensed anything at all from from the good people. Do you know, the ordinary people on the ground? I haven't sensed anything. So I'm just astonished. I've seen a clip on the website, you know, on the news of what's happened, and I don't recognise it as being anything to do with Southport. So I don't know where these people have come from.
What is the community of Southport like?
It's I would say it's caring. I would say it's decent. Obviously, nowhere's perfect. There's nowhere on the earth that's perfect. But basically good, down-to-earth, solid people, hard-working, respectful. And certainly the idea of throwing bricks at police, who yesterday were risking their lives trying to save people, do you know, and first responders. It's bizarre. It's certainly I've never seen anything from anyone in Southport who would do anything like that, do you know. So it's on the back of yesterday's distress, which we're still reeling from. Of course, we all are. It's kind of the opposite. It doesn't help in any shape or form. It doesn't make any sense either.
How do you, as a community, heal? Where do you go from here?
The answer is love, and I don't mean that glibly or in an overly simplest way. We love, we care for one another, we listen to one another, we respect one another. The opposite of what's been happening in this riot tonight and whatever they've been up to, and that's what's been happening in a massive way. I was amazed today how quiet Southport was. I mean, it's midsummer; it was a lovely day. Normally, it would be chocker, you know. If you don't know Southport, a seaside resort, there'll be a lot of people who would come out when the sun comes out. But it's been very quiet and very respectful. Respect is a word, I'd say. And this riot tonight that I've seen on the news is the opposite to that. So much the polar opposite to that. So respect for people and the grief and the sadness that they're going through. So yeah, I think the way to heal and the way forward is the community. I think is fine in essence. Essential goodness is there. This doesn't seem to me to have any connection to Southport. It's so different to anything I've experienced here, and I've lived here for 22 years.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Father John Heneghan.
You're so welcome. Take care. God bless.
And to you. Father John Heneghan, who is a parish priest at St Marie's Church in Southport. It does appear as though things, calming might not be quite the right word, but certainly shifting, shall we say, in Southport. It appears those crowds have moved away, at least from the mosque, perhaps dissipated slightly, not necessarily contained, as Constance Kampfer pointed out earlier, but have shifted the focus perhaps away from the mosque. We'll bring you the latest from Southport as and when we get it. We've got our eye on that for you